Good evening and welcome to the Sonic Cinema Movie Chat. And we have a bit of a change in the program tonight. Originally, I was going to have Patrick Michael, who is a fellow film blogger and also has been on the podcast but he was having technical issues, so we decided to postpone his appearance on the chat until Monday. So that'll be Monday at 9 p.m. like usual. And it's just going to be me tonight. And I don't know how long I'll go tonight, but I hope that we have I hope that I have a good discussion for you. So, with that being said, I'm going to basically switch what I was going to talk about on Monday to tonight. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the upcoming Atlanta Film Festival, which starts next week. And this will be my third year covering it. And so basically, after I got accepted into the Georgia Film Critics Association in 2018, I decided that I was going to take a chance and see about covering the Atlanta Film Festival, which I had never covered a film festival before. I had gone to a film festival once before, and I'll explain what the context of that was. Actually, I've gone several times before, but that's another story. And basically, I got accepted, and I was really excited. That was my first time covering a film festival, and I immediately loved it. And it was wonderful having that access to talent. It was wonderful having access to the movies that I had access to, like Lulu Wang's The Farewell, like Joe Berlinger's Netflix movie with Zac Efron as Ted Bundy, and a bunch of other movies I saw there that were just wonderful. And it was an experience unlike any other I had had in terms of movie watching. And so in 2019, that was the only film festival that I had covered. In 2020, though, I decided that in addition to attempting to cover the Atlanta Film Festival again, I was also going to cover the Women in Horror Film Festival, or try to cover the Women in Horror Film Festival. The reason being, there were a couple of filmmakers that I had gotten to know over online who had projects at the Women in Horror Film Festival. One had a script in the screenwriting competition, another one had a short film in the regular screenings. And I emailed the organizer of the festival, and they allowed me to join, and that was it's a very intense 2.5 days of movie watching, but it was still completely worth it. I had a great time getting to know people, getting to see so many films in quick succession. Little did I know at the time that was going to be my last theatrical experience for over 6 months, but it was just a wonderful experience. And the Women in Horror Film Festival, the sense of community, the sense of bonding in that one remind me a lot of Dragon Con, and just the sense of a larger community at play. And that's one of the things that I really loved about it. And so that was a lot of fun to be able to be a part of that. And like I said, that was the last theatrical experience that I had before COVID hit and everybody shut down. And it's funny because shortly after the Women in Horror Film Festival last year, I got word that I was accepted to once again cover the Atlanta Film Festival, which was originally going to be late April, early May. But then, needless to say, with theaters closing, that postponed a lot, including the Atlanta Film Festival. But they were still intent on doing it later in the year. So, cut to the summer of last year, and I got word that Fantasia Fest, which is one of the big genre festivals of the movie year, was actually going all virtual. And Fantasia Fest takes place in Montreal, so it was going to be all virtual, and I decided to apply to cover that one, and that was a wonderful experience being able to do that. The one thing if the one thing about that one that was different from the experience with Fantasia, with Women in Horror and Atlanta Film Festival, of course, is that because of the fact that the way they planned the screening schedule, the virtual screenings were almost all geo-blocked for Canadian audiences only. So basically, if you were a critic covering the festival, you basically relied on screeners. And so basically, all of August of last year was devoted to watching screeners for Fantasia Fest, except for one movie, which was the Lloyd Kaufman trauma film, hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. And that one I was able to watch, and that was a fun experience to do. The movie itself is not that great, but overall it was fun, and I got to talk to a lot of filmmakers, got a lot of great interviews, had some really fun discussions with other film critics who were covering the festival over the festival's Discord service, and that was terrific. Last year's Atlanta Film Festival took place in late September, mid to late September, and it basically it's funny because of the fact that that was as the theater was as the theaters had reopened, so I had to take vacation time for that, which is fine. And it was bittersweet because I was actually covering the Atlanta Film Festival when I learned that the theater I had worked at for nearly 19 years was closing permanently. And that was a bit unfortunate. That was something I was not looking forward to, and it was really bittersweet. And then after we closed that one for good, I went to another theater briefly for 2 shifts before Regal started shutting down again, and that's kind of where we are now. I know my theater is going to be reopening in May 7th, which is after the Atlanta Film Festival. So the two shouldn't overlap like they did in the fall. But so with the Atlanta Film Festival though last year, I loved that it was a hybrid virtual and drive-in theater film festival. So there were some drive-in screenings that you could go to, as well as chances to watch a lot of the films virtually, and that was a lot of fun to have that hybrid. I got to talk to a few more filmmakers, and that was probably of the 3 film festivals, I think that was probably my favorite one to cover because of the drive-in aspect of it. And it wasn't quite as intensive as the virtual Fantasia Fest was. I love covering Fantasia Fest because of the fact that it reminded me how much we were missing in the movie year last year when it came to genre films. We weren't really getting a lot of genre films with major studios punting down the road. and then indies like IFC and Neon basically taking up the mantle of film releases. So that was a great experience. Fantasia Film Fest was um, because of all the genre that was taking place there. But what I loved about the Atlanta Film Festival was that it found a way to adapt to the times while also giving you an opportunity to sort of have a film festival experience in the drive-in aspect of it. And it was that I have to give credit to the Plaza, who's continued the drive-in experience since they reopened last year, covered the Plaza, and then have reopened their indoor theater. And I love the fact that this year for the Atlanta Film Festival, it's not only virtual and drive-in. They're also going to have indoor screenings as well. And I'm looking forward to being back in the Plaza Theater. It's one of my favorite theaters to watch a movie in, and that's always really a fun experience to be in that auditorium. And they're going to continue with social distancing of the seats as they've always done since they reopened the indoor theater back in September, actually, for Tenet. But this will actually be my second film festival I covered this year after Sundance. And Sundance was fully virtual, although the Plaza did have screenings. But because of all of the virtual premieres that I wanted to go to, I wasn't able to really go to any of the in-person screenings that the Plaza had for Sundance. It was really a that was just as intensive as Fantasia Fest, and I'm really, virtual film festivals are actually more exhausting than you might think because of the fact that you really have to discipline yourself to give yourself space to watch movies and to take breaks. I mean, that's the case with any film festival, but I think you have a structure with in-person film festivals that you don't get with virtual film festivals. Because virtual film festivals, and I know this was the case with me with Fantasia Fest and with Sundance, where I just wanted to get as much as possible. I wanted to see as much as possible. And it was a great experience to do that, but at the same time, it was exhausting. It was exhausting, and it was still something that I genuinely enjoyed. Though I loved having the experience of covering those festivals. I hope to do so in person at some point, and it's one of those things where it's one of those things where I think the more I've covered film festivals, the more I've learned about covering film festivals. And I like that this Atlanta Film Festival, they have a lot of good, interesting independent films, which I'll be writing about in my blog next week before the festival starts. I won't necessarily get into some of them here, but I like the fact that I'm going to have a combination of virtual movies to watch, indoor movies to watch, and drive-in. So it's going to be a combination of all three. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also just looking forward to having that experience again of watching something new. And I think that's one of the things that something new and something unexpected. And I think that's one of the big values of film festivals, and especially something like Atlanta and Fantasia Fest and even Sundance. I mean, Sundance is interesting though because of how much of an industry event it's become. Atlanta and Fantasia Fest are still very much independent of the industry to a large extent. I mean, you'll see studio movies come. You'll see movies that already have studios come into those, but at the same time, it's not a case where you're gonna watch a movie one night at Sundance and the next day it's already been picked up for an exorbitant amount of money by whatever studio wants to release it. That's not the case with the Atlanta Film Festival or Fantasia Fest or Women in Horror Film Festival. One of the things that's great about Women in Horror Film Festival is the fact that it basically the Women in Horror Film Festival is completely independent. So your chances are you're not going to be seeing the same movies there that you would see at another film festival, even something like Fantasia Fest, which is all about genre. Sometimes you do, and I know there were other films from Women in Horror that eventually got into other film festivals, and short films you will occasionally see some bleed over with, but the short film blocks, it's like I remember reading an article in, I think it was Film Comment, or it was some magazine like that several years ago, and they were talking about Sundance, and one of the things that they said that really stuck with me, and this was at a time when I was working on making films of my own, and they had a little thing where they talked about how one of the big draws of Sundance were the short film blocks, and as I've gotten into watching more and more short films over the years, thanks first to independent filmmakers sending me their stuff, to watching film festivals, I've really come to appreciate short films so much, and even as much as feature films. And it's not just because of the length; it's because of the creativity that goes into a short film, and the discipline that goes into a really great short film to get your point across quickly. And I think that's one of the great things about short films, and short film blocks are something that I always try to do, and I like that for Atlanta, they always have for opening night a short film block of Georgia only filmmakers, and that's actually, I will say, that's gonna be the one that's gonna be my Thursday night screening next week for the Atlanta Film Festival. I do still kind of want to do a stream Thursday night. I just don't know what time it would be and how I'm going to go about doing that. But I'm really looking forward to going back to the Atlanta Film Festival. I love the plaza, and it's going to be a lot of fun to go to. So my first, I will say, and I've talked about this in the past, my first film festival experience was actually in 2002. And this was as Buffy the Vampire Slayer was going on. And I was really enamored by Amber Benson, who played Tara on Buffy. And she had written and directed a film called Chance, and it's kind of this irreverent romantic comedy. It's like 73 minutes or something. It's really short, but I was really interested in watching it, and I found out that it was premiering at the Sidewalk Film Festival in Birmingham, Alabama. And so I decided that I was going to go and do it, and I was gonna go watch it, and it was a lot of waiting because I was there specifically for that screening. I didn't want to risk missing that screening, but I did actually watch a short film block before that screening, and Amber was there, and a bunch of people in the film who were involved with the film were there, and it was just a wonderful experience. It it was me as a fan. It was something that I wanted to do as a fan. Uh, which sort of ties into my. I mean, I've gone to the Dragon Con Film Festival before. It's one of my favorite things to do is to go to a handful of short film blocks at Dragon Con to in between panels, and that is a lot of fun to do. It's a good way to sort of decompress while still continuing to do something, as opposed to just relaxing, going to vendor rooms, and just going to eat. But yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I understand why they weren't able to do the Dragon Con Film Festival last year. But it was still nice to see them go virtual. And I know this year, I think they're talking about doing a. I know they're still. I know right now they're planning on doing a in person con this year. I'm kind of curious what that's going to look like, but we'll see how that goes, and I'm curious to go. I'm anxious to go back to that. I miss having that kind of Labor Day weekend last year, and I'm looking forward to going back to it and just experiencing that sense of community all over again. So, with the talk of film festivals and in-person viewings coming to the forefront, one of the things that I wanted to talk about also is some of my favorite experiences watching movies on the big screen. And it's an experience that obviously, for obvious reasons, very few people have had this year, and very few people have been comfortable to go to this year. When we reopened in late August, early September, I only did 2 in-person indoor screenings last year of The New Mutants and Tenet. And so Tenet was actually the last movie I saw at my theater before it shut down. And I'm looking forward to going back to in-person theater, to in-person events. And the first one that I'm going to be doing before the Atlanta Film Festival starts is the Plaza is actually playing Lawrence of Arabia in 70mm film this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. and I'm going to that screening. I've never seen it on the big screen before. I've heard it's basically a bucket list thing for movie buffs to see that movie on the big screen, because it's one of the quintessential big screen events. And so it got me thinking of what some of my favorite theatrical experiences have been over the years. And it's weird how so many of them involve older movies, seeing older movies on the big screen. And especially at special screens like the Lawrence of Arabia one that's happening on Saturday. I think right now, Chance was a wonderful one because of the film festival energy. I think my favorite one, though, just for the experience of seeing that particular film on the big screen, was seeing 2001: A Space Odyssey at the fabulous Fox Theater in downtown Atlanta. And that was... I've seen so many... I got a chance to see so many great movies there over the years. My mother and I went to go see the Atlanta premiere of Twister at the Fox, and that was my first time seeing a movie at the Fox, and it was just tremendous. I've also seen 2001 there. Saw The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I saw Buster Keaton's The General there. I saw Fellowship of the Ring there. And I've actually done a couple of double features there, both involved on my birthday. One was a double feature of the Maltese Falcon and Key Largo, where a good portion of the group of us that went to the double feature kind of fell asleep during Key Largo. And then a few years ago, there was a double feature on my birthday of Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles at the Fox, and we went to that one as well. And that was just because I'm so that was, I think, one of the few times I had really seen Blazing Saddles at that point. I was really well accustomed to Young Frankenstein at that point, but not as much with Blazing Saddles. This year, this past year, the Plaza has had some great drive-in shows. Marv, who's in the chat, mentioned he saw Goonies last year. I saw Goonies at a drive-in screening last year as well. I also saw Fistful of Dollars. I watched Into the Spider-Verse last year, which was just, I love that movie so much. And we also saw Demolition Man there. That was just a cheesy one to go to. And let's see, we also did Mad Max Fury Road. And the most recent one I've seen at the drive-in, the Plaza Drive-In, is Andrei Tarkovsky's Mirror, which it was just announced is finally being added to the Criterion Collection this year. And it was a new restoration of the movie, and I had never seen a Tarkovsky film on the big screen before. And I definitely wanted to take that opportunity for that one because of the fact that it's one of my favorites of his, and he is a no, they didn't have a deleted scene that explains the 3 seashells, Marv. I don't know that we'll ever get a full explanation of that. But it's Mirror is just a beautiful memory piece in Janos Films, which is basically Criterion's film label, I guess. They have just a wonderful restoration of Mirror. It was, even in a drive-in, it was just remarkably beautiful to watch that. And let's see, trying to think of some other experiences that I've had that were great. Seeing Fantasia 2000 in IMAX was just fantastic. I mean, that was one of my first real IMAX presentations. It was one of the first mainstream movies to get an IMAX release, if not the first. Because basically, when you think IMAX, most of what you thought of at that time were like nature documentaries or something like Everest, which is still a tremendous experience to watch. And Fantasia 2000 was just breathtaking on IMAX. And let's see, trying to think of some other. There have been some great IMAX movies I've had a chance to watch. And let's see, I didn't get a chance to see Tenet on IMAX, but I think that would have been a great one. I did see it in our RPX theater, which is sort of our large format theater. Part of the reason I wanted to talk about theatrical experience, though, is I did want to give a shout out and pour one out for ArcLight and Pacific Cinemas, who announced they were closing earlier this week. And Pacific Cinemas ran the Cinerama Dome, which is one of the great iconic theaters in Hollywood. And I've never been to an ArcLight or Pacific Theater, but if I ever got out to California one time, I would have loved to go there. I'm sure, I would hope that somebody will at least pick up the Dome to continue to run that, but we'll see what happens there. But I know a lot of people who've been to those theaters really lament the experience of them being closed, and it's unfortunate, and it's really made it all the more impressive that the plaza was able to survive the past year, because there was a lot of risk in them going out of business last year, and that was one of the theaters that I was most concerned about. And they when they got involved in the virtual theater program that helped independent theaters with virtual rentals, and when they did the pop-up drive-in experience, they continued to do that. Uh, it's wonderful to see that they're still doing it a year later, and I'm really grateful that theater is still around for the Atlanta Film Festival, and because the Atlanta Film Festival's synonymous with that, and I love going there, and I remember there's so many movies that I saw there, because it used to be a LaFont theater, used to be a discount theater, and I saw Swingers there, I saw Pie there, I saw Big Night there, I saw what else have I seen? I did see a digital presentation of The Shining down there. That was a lot of fun. Saw The Crow there a couple of years ago, and it's just one of the great repertory theaters, and it's great that it's been able to succeed the way it has the past year, and I can't wait to patron them again this weekend, then next week for the Atlanta Film Festival. Let's see, but while I'm thinking of favorite experiences watching movies, I would like to give a shout out to experiences I had my own movie theater watching movies. I think some of my favorites over there have been getting a chance to watch Star Wars: The Force Awakens for the first time was great. Previewing the Avengers was great. Previewing Peter Jackson's King Kong was great. The unexpected nature of that, watching Up for the first time, just really moved me terribly in previewing that one, which I've talked about plenty of times in writing, and I will talk about it again in the book that I'm planning. And trying to think of what else, because it was our theater was weird because of the fact that we were in what was known as a 2-player zone, where if one theater got the other movie didn't get it, and that was relaxed a bit for some of the studios, but in the end it was just tough to it was frustrating to not get everything there. Being able to watch one time, my friend seeing Hugo in 3D on our RPX large format theater was just breathtaking. Same with watching The Adventures of Tintin on that same theater. Those two were just wonderful, and I think that was probably one of my favorite days because of the fact that my friend Ron and we start off across town at North Point watching Warhorse, which my theater did not get, and then we raced over to my theater to watch The Adventures of Tintin and Hugo. And it was just a great day to see those two masters making cinema like that, and it's just absolutely it was one of those special days that I remember fondly, and there's nothing quite like watching a movie for being able to watch a movie for the first time with an audience and just have it hit you unexpectedly. And I was fortunate to have some great experiences screening movies. Like a bunch of us screened the awful Uwe Boll movie, In the Name of the King, in 2008, and so many of us just went to town on that movie because of how awful it was. That was a fun experience, and I think that's kind of it that I have for this episode. I'm gonna keep this one a bit short, but come back on Monday, and hopefully we will have the technical issues figured out between Patrick, Michael, and I, and we'll give you that conversation on Monday night, 9 p.m. For now, this is Brian Scuttle. Read my written work at www.sonic-cinema.com. Check out the Sonic Cinema podcast at Apple, Google, and Spotify, as well as the Sonic Cinema podcast YouTube channel. I had a new episode drop on Tuesday, which if you were watching Monday's stream, you got a brief highlight on it, and my friend Timothy Cox and we talked about the idea of established classics, movies that don't really get seen a whole lot, but at the same time, don't really need to be seen to achieve that sort of classic status. And you can also check us out and subscribe to the Patreon at www.patreon.com/SonicCinema. And for now, though, this is Brian Scuttle. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and I hope to see you again on Monday.